I may be wrong, but I feel it, that the lines of the church and Christianity are becoming intersected and blurred with your party lines, with your
Mm-hmm.
political ideology, with the All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of Truth Reveal, where we discuss topics where we relate in order to reconcile, to reveal God's truth. And today I have with me my lovely co-host.
What's up? Holly Harris.
Latricia Peak, aka Sweet.
Yes, and of course I'm April Rivers. For you, those of you who don't know, but and I just want to ask real quick that you do something for us, that you like, share, and subscribe. If you are
Yes.
watching this, whatever platform, of course, if you're on
Yes.
YouTube, you want to like this, you want to share this, and subscribe to our channel. And if you're watching or listening to us, subscribe to the podcast, in whatever way you can support. This content is
Yes.
absolutely free,
Yeah.
and we love doing it for you all, but we put our time in, we put work in, and we really want to build our platform. So if you enjoy us,
Yes.
don't be selfish.
Don't be
That's
Help
right.
others
selfish.
enjoy us
Share.
and share,
Share.
Sharing is
Sharing.
caring.
Sharing is
That's
caring.
right. Sharing is caring. And today we're going to talk about a topic which is in line to the season that we're in. Y'all know what season it is. And I ain't talking about fall or soup season. I'm
I
talking
had soup
about,
tonight.
yeah. I'm talking about election time.
Oh
It
my.
is a
Yay.
very, very political season in
Mm.
our and it is a time where some run for cover because it seems like nobody's safe. And
Mm.
then there is a times where people are very, very involved, almost to the point of unhealthiness, but
Oh my.
unhealthy obsession with
Right. Right.
politics.
Mm.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, we want to tackle something that I think is dear to us because, as you all well know, me, Sweet, and Holly are all believers in the Christian faith. And right now, I think more now than ever has been, I may be wrong, but I feel it, that the lines of the church and Christianity are becoming intersected and blurred with your party lines, with your
Mm-hmm.
political ideology, with the candidate that you may vote for, subscribe to, who and what you support, has kind of taken on, I think, an unhealthy turn when it comes to the lines of being a Christian. So I'm going to make a statement to get the conversation rolling, and I'm gonna read it as I wrote it. Okay, and I'm posing this to my sisters, and just something for everyone to ponder. But I'm posing this to Latricia and Holly. My statement says, people of the Christian faith community are to have one king or ruler. God uses earthly systems because we, as his people, and just biblical history, his people, as far as the children of Israel, they wanted an earthly king like other nations. God's original intent was that his people really just be led by him and follow him.
Mm-hmm.
But the people of God said, no, we want a king too, or a president, or earthly representations of government rule. Okay, and because of the earthly system being in place, we do take part in it as believers. So we vote and do all those other things like everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
However, anyone who claims to be a part of the church is under God's kingdom rule above, and I put above in all caps, above the earthly kingdom. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's a position that all three of us hold, right? I'm
Yeah,
assuming, right,
Yes.
absolutely.
Holly and Sweet, we all hold that same sentiment. So that being said, do you feel that Christians are making how we govern and navigate ourselves in this earthly political system above or on the same level as how we are to govern ourselves as believers? Whoever wants to hit it first.
Yeah, I definitely feel that that is what it has become. You know, anytime you're labeling one party as God's party, or you're labeling one candidate as God's candidate, you've blurred the lines. You know, you've put, God has got his hand on this one and not on that one. And, based on, the views of each political party, you got some who may not think you are as saved as someone else
Yeah.
if you choose to vote a certain way. So
Yeah.
I definitely think that there is a lot of judgment going around, a lot of, insinuations, when it
Mhm.
comes to somebody's faith walk, their faith journey, based on how they decide to vote. And
Yeah.
so I definitely feel like the lines have blurred. And then of course you've seen a lot of, you know, uh, preachers, or people within the church, leading marches, and they're completely geared one direction, and
Yeah.
different things of that nature. So definitely the lines have completely been crossed.
All right. Sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with what Holly is stating as well. I definitely feel like the lines have completely merged together. I look at it as a merging,
Mm-hmm.
because it almost seems as though the political affiliation is associated with faith.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
normally, there's always been that separation of church and state, or politics and faith. But I think the past more than couple of years, I've heard a lot about voting values and voting what you believe, and how certain parties align with the values of Christians.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say probably the past 4 years, it seems like there became this whole meshing,
Yeah.
not just voting your values, but what Holly stated. Um, a lot of, if you are a believer, you should be this way. You should vote this way. You should ascribe to this particular affiliate.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I totally agree with that.
Mhm. Okay. Well, I
Ooh,
myself,
excuse
I,
me.
I I do think that it's become an unhealthy blur, because one of my things that I know and I do believe, yeah, I believe you should, everyone, even if you're not a Christian, you vote your beliefs. You
Right.
you vote
Yeah.
toward what you value morally. Everyone has a moral compass. Even atheists, they
Mm-hmm.
have, even though they may say they don't, they have a moral compass of like, I think this is right, so I do this, right?
Yeah.
So of course we're people, so we are going to vote what we whatever we think is kind of on the level of importance we want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think the danger is when you take and begin to ascribe my level of what kind of character of person I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
Based on how I vote, or what I believe is of a hierarchy of importance.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's where the problem is, because we know, biblically speaking, the Bible does not expressly say anywhere in scriptures. Now, y'all correct me if I'm wrong. The Lord does not say, this is how I want you to govern yourselves politically.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And when this candidate is in, go with this. Now, the Lord has his own set of way we ought to live as Christians, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times in the earthly political systems, when they wanted Jesus to come and overthrow governments, he was like, I got my own government. He like,
Oh, the government shall be on my
yeah,
My
shoulder.
shoulders.
on my shoulders. And he said, my kingdom is not of this earth. It
Come
ain't of
on
this
Yeah.
now.
world. You
Mm.
know, so I think that somewhere we're getting a disconnect, not just with
Mm.
if you don't vote this way, you're not really a real Christian, but also, what if you don't vote? If you
Mm.
don't vote, then you're bad too. You
Yeah.
know, and how, like, people using their pulpit. I sent y'all a clip, and I'm not using any names, but I sent Holly and Sweet a clip of a preacher. It was sent to me, so I don't even know the preacher's name, to be honest with you, because it was sent like in a group messenger of people that I go to church with. and I don't even know the origin of it, but basically the pulpit was being used to tell people, church folk, it was particularly black church folk too. This was a black preacher saying that pretty much if you don't vote, that you are just as bad or not worse or doing as much damage as the Klan. And that's
Mm,
what he chose to use the pulpit to say.
yeah.
And I'm gonna let y'all express your opinions on that since I brought that up. But to me, that's an overstep of boundaries. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I don't speak on what, because I am not God, and I'm not discounting even this particular preacher. I'm not at all discrediting his relationship with God. He may be an awesome man of God, but I think he missed that. I don't think the
Mm,
pulpit that God just say use where people are hurting, dying, a pandemic's going on, people ain't got jobs, people are children are battling depression because they can't go out, they don't have no socialization, struggling with school, that you need to use your pulpit to tell someone who's not voting that they're as bad as people who lynched and burned and terrorized folk. I just
mm,
have a hard time believing that. So it's
mm-hmm.
not just, oh, vote this way or vote that way. It's like a using the pulpit as a, I don't know a better way to say, but a bullying station,
Mm,
to kind of assault your character when it comes to politics. And I think we're putting a hierarchy. There ain't but
mm.
one savior,
Oh
and it
my,
ain't President so and so,
it ain't.
Governor so and so, right? Yes, we have to be active in our political system. The Lord did say, Jesus said, give to Caesar what is Caesar's and give to God what is God. He didn't say, like, not to do what we ought to do, but I don't know. I'll ramble, but y'all give y'all thoughts on that, because that struck me in a bad way.
Yeah, I've always felt like that. I've been a part of ministries, black and white, because
Mm-hmm.
I've been in both settings, where I've sat under the leadership of black pastors as well as sat under the leadership of white pastors, and so I've heard it on all ends.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So even though this guy was extreme, and I thought it was, I've
He was pretty
always felt
angry.
he was
Yeah.
he was
He
angry.
was
Stop
He
angry.
it.
could he
I ain't gonna
couldn't get
say
it together. They had to
he
cut
had
it
to,
off
they
and
had to
cut it back
stop the
on.
video.
Y'all,
I was like, Lord, somebody pray for the pastor because he's having a
yes,
hard time with this.
yes,
But
yeah.
Mm,
We're
but
gonna put it in our notes, y'all, so y'all can look at it. But
like, all jokes aside, I do feel like the pulpit should never be used from a standpoint in the manner in which this young man was, because it did come across as very, very accusatory. He
mm-hmm.
made some
yeah,
very, very lofty statements. But
Yeah.
I
yeah,
also feel like it should equally be used if you use it subtly to
Mm-hmm.
passively aggressively say
right,
how you feel as it
Yeah.
pertains to another particular party. Both of them are wrong. I think the pulpit should be used to lead people, guide people, assist people in their faith walk, and I think it should be holistic.
Mm-hmm.
So we're here, we're in this earth, we're of it, um, or not of it, but we're in it, and
mm-hmm.
so we can't not address politics.
Right,
At best, it should be exercise your right to vote
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
if that's what you so choose. But this whole how you vote, who you vote for, I don't think I don't think politics has ever had a place or should ever have a place coming from the pulpit. When politics gets infused in with the sacred, to me it becomes profane.
Mm-hmm.
that's good.
Yeah.
Ollie, how
And
you feeling?
I definitely agree with that. I feel like, when you're in a place where you have a certain level of influence, that, you should not be using it to tell people who to vote for. you
Right,
know, you should be spreading the gospel, spreading the good news, and not, putting your opinions and your ideologies into the head, because, you have a certain level of influence. So whatever you
yeah,
say, a lot of times your parishioners are going to be like, okay, that word is bond. That's
right,
what, we should be
yeah,
doing or whatever. And so that definitely should not be the place. But, it's been going on for such a long time. And I think that is why we find ourselves ourselves at this place where
Yeah.
it's been a merging that has taken place, and, Sweet and I were talking about this earlier, when it came to, and I do feel like to a certain extent that the church should definitely be involved in, the whole political process, fighting for injustice, all of that good stuff. And we were
Mm-hmm.
talking about, the early Black church and be involved in the civil rights movement. But when
Yeah.
you think on that level of political, political level, they were fighting for people's rights. They weren't
Right.
Yes.
saying this is who you should vote for. This is,
Right.
and
Right.
so there's a difference there. That
Mm-hmm.
should be the slant that we take in the political arena, should be fighting for injustice, fighting for people's rights, and
Yeah.
not saying this is the person that you should vote for. And
Yes.
like Sweet was saying, definitely say, vote, exercise your right to vote, but not, angling it with your own rhetoric and all of that kind of stuff.
Right. Right.
Because
Yeah.
you know and I feel like it's important for us to vote now. I got my own views on people who don't vote. I mean, I wouldn't say they the Klan, but I
Right. Right.
my
It was
Lord.
extreme. Yeah,
You
I
It
ain't
know,
was
got no
extreme.
problem.
It
yeah.
I
was
don't have
extreme.
no problem. Go ahead, Holly. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
but I do feel like we should, especially us African Americans and our, what our ancestors died and fought so hard to give us, for us to take a nonchalant approach when it comes to voting. And I understand a lot of times when people don't vote, it's because they really don't know, or maybe they don't know who to vote for. They don't really care for the candidates that are being presented, or they're just unaware, but that's what Google is for. That's what research is for. That's what talking to other people is for, so that you can be prepared to exercise your right to vote. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I definitely want to make sure people know I'm not trying to come across as I really do feel like, yes, when it comes to helping people get to the polls, making sure people are registered, the church is there to serve the people. So
Yeah.
so
Right.
I think that's all in order.
Hmm.
It's just when you get to overextending your opinion,
Yes.
Hmm.
because it's your opinion. Who
Right.
I
Hmm.
think is the right candidate, it's just my opinion, right?
Yeah.
What party I'm connected to was my choice and my opinion. So
Hmm.
when you begin to take that and ascribe that to biblical, Christian, non-Christian, how Christian you are, what God says is right. Well,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, we know what the word says, and we know that neither political party is 100% on the line of anything,
So,
that God is all the way on the
whose side are you
side.
leaning
All
on?
right,
Leaning
right.
on.
On the Lord's
So we
side.
just want to make sure that that there's balance, and that people are not, like we're saying, overstepping these bounds, because I really think it's a dangerous place to be.
It
It's a
is.
Yeah.
danger.
Yeah.
It's a danger in that.
It's
You
kind
know,
of a little form of manipulation there, because
form
if
of
you're
Yeah.
trying
manipulation.
to,
The Jezebel spirit. Call it what it
well,
is.
Yeah,
my
yeah.
goodness.
Yeah, a form of manipulation.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In the worst way. In the
Yeah.
worst way, using the name of God to cause things to go the way that you think they ought to go.
Hmm.
And
Absolutely.
Go
it's
ahead.
very, oh, I'm sorry. It's very soulish, from that
Yes.
soulish place. I think, kind of, I don't want to go too deep, but you know how, like, when people prophesy and they say, and for
Yeah.
those who may not know what prophecy is when people feel like they have insight and knowledge from Jesus from on high, and they're sharing that information. But when people say that they feel like the Lord has told them that this person is going to be it, or that person is going to be it,
Hmm.
um, I think you have to be so careful when making those type of proclamations, because of
Mhm.
what Holly said. When you're in those positions of authority, you have to be careful that your own opinions and your own biases and your own
Yes.
personal feelings aren't being infused with what you feel like you're being with what you feel like you're hearing, because I
Hmm.
think that equally can be just as manipulative, um,
Hmm.
as as this guy was that we heard. And
Yeah.
that's where it's like it's so subtle
Hmm.
that it can come across to me. I call it a little passive aggressive, where
Yeah.
it's very subtle. Like, I feel like I'm hearing from God. This is what the Lord has said. but we're all filtering our thoughts and our processes and what we hear and what we see through our own feelings and our hearts.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So if I like April and I feel like April stands with what I believe in, it's easy for me to feel like this is what the Lord wants too.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
it's
Yeah,
such a dangerous
that's good.
place.
It
It's such a
is.
dangerous place.
It really is.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. We
Yeah.
need to just stop, boy, because it's a bold thing to be like, well, God said, and I know I'm right. Like y'all
Mm-hmm.
better stop that foolishness. Like,
I'm telling you.
so to speak, like Sweet said, like the prophet saying, the Lord showed me. That's the
Mm-hmm.
same equivalent. Like it's okay to dislike who you want to dislike, like who you want to like, but don't dare look at me and say if I don't agree with you, I'm on the wrong side of God. Don't do that. Don't
Mm-hmm.
Right.
don't do that. Don't
Yeah.
do that. Mm-mm.
No.
All right. So, I think we might have touched on this, but I'm going to ask it. Is there any biblical evidence that you know of that in which God warns us about not taking part in the world's political systems that you know of? And I'm not talking about verbatim. Like I don't mean you have to say, even though I know this has nothing to do with politics, you ain't got to say John 3:16 says da 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 da
Yeah.
da. But just, just out of what we know of biblical knowledge, and I may have even misread my own question. I really wanted to get the sentiment of whether the Bible makes a statement for either for or against anything as far as our political involvement. Because to my knowledge, I don't know of any.
So are you asking if the Bible is speaking
It's
about us being involved in the political process?
right. Like, is it explicit about, okay, as Christians, you should uh do, and it's hard because the Bible didn't have voting, right?
Right, right.
They
Because
God,
the church was even with I'm sorry, I done went over you.
no, go
You
ahead,
should.
because if you know what I'm asking, go ahead, go for it.
Because the church was very much involved. Then there was really no separation. I mean,
Right.
who was the prophet that would go and anoint the king?
Samuel.
Samuel. Yeah, Samuel. So you had literally a prophet going to
To
pick who
anoint
the
the king
king was going to
was gonna
be.
be.
So it really wasn't, they didn't really have a say so in who it was going to be. It still came directly from God, even though they said, okay,
Yeah.
Lord, we want,
We want an
we
earthly.
want an earthly king or whatever. It's still God had a part in the political process.
All right, but
But
one caveat to that though
yeah,
is that was the children of Israel's king, right?
yeah,
That
oh yeah, that
wasn't
was just the
like the
children of
pagan
Israel.
nation. So that
That's
would
true.
be
That's true.
like the church, like saying, we don't care nothing about y'all government. We elected somebody to be over the Christians. So that's a
Yeah,
And I
little
yeah,
caveat in that.
yeah,
well I
definitely so.
think like in the New Testament you did have those Pharisees and Sadducees who were the elite, the scribes, the teachers,
Mm-hmm.
the rabbis, or whatever. So they kind of technically were over the Christians as far as who the Christians responded to for understanding and knowledge. But then they still lived in very pagan environments
And they
where
dealt with the
they
politicians, I
they
think.
dealt with the
Yeah,
politicians. I mean, wasn't it when the Pharisees and the Sadducees wanted to persecute Jesus, they still had to go to they
Pontius
had to
Pilate.
go
yeah,
to
Pontius Pilate. Mm-hmm.
Pontius Pilate to even ask, can this take place? So I think that I don't know if it is explicit in the way that you're asking, but I don't think that we can exist and not be a part, because when you start talking about justice, that's very much in the Bible. And I think
Mm-hmm.
those justice and politics kind of go hand in hand in our current nation.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, that being said, let me say this. That being said, how well did the Sadducees and Pharisees fare? Because they were so political, they was crooked.
That's true.
They were all involved in the pots and having political power, and it got ugly. Right.
Real ugly.
Now I will say this, and y'all, this is a little bit, we're getting deep in the Bible, but stay, just hang in there. We're going to talk about it and get back to where you definitely talk about this in a way that you definitely understand, and have some biblical knowledge. Learn a little something if you don't know. But when we look at the Old Testament, though, I will say this: God very much had believers. Not only were they were involved, he put them in positions in the government.
Yeah.
So Joseph was the right hand man. He the reason why everybody ain't starved to death.
Right.
This is true.
He was raised up beside the Pharaoh to govern, to
Yes.
basically distribute food, because the Lord had given a dream to that current Pharaoh president ruler, who was not a Christian.
Yeah.
Right? Pharaoh was not a Christian. God gave him a dream that he couldn't interpret. God gave Joseph the ability to interpret. Therefore, the Pharaoh raised him up to govern. Then you had Daniel. Daniel was a cupbearer, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Daniel worked for the government, and he had the ear of political figures. So you
Esther and
see,
Mordecai.
and oh God, that's a big one. Esther,
We studying that now, but
Lord,
that Esther and Mordecai,
yes.
they were Mordecai was in a position of authority.
He was in a political position of authority. His niece wasn't that his niece,
Goddaughter,
goddaughter, some
adopted child.
yeah. He she married the
The
king,
king.
right? So they had positions of power. So we're not
Mhm.
talking about Christians not having a place in the political system. Again, that line again, and the reason why I even asked that question was I was trying to, and I don't know if I was able to, if I honed the question right, but just trying to make the point, and you may disagree, make the point that your salvation is not on the line, even though you should vote, even though you should let your voice be heard and vote your convictions and vote so you can be part of this process, because
Yeah.
whether or not you're a part of it, you're going to be affected by it. So whether
Yeah,
It's
you know what I'm saying,
this
the
is true.
laws
come
that
on
come
here.
down and different stuff, it's going to affect you and your children and everything. So
Mm-hmm.
you should be a part. But if and so you don't, if and so you do it, if you vote for the quote unquote wrong person, so you vote for someone, they get in there and act a fool, your salvation is not on the line.
Mm-hmm.
That
Absolutely not.
that's the thing that I'm just, that's what I'm getting disturbed about, because the Christians is amped right now.
It
The
is.
Christians is
They on
And then we
25.
forget that
They on
God,
25.
He used both wicked and good
come
kings
on, Holly
for
Harris.
His own purpose. So it's like,
Yeah.
Yes.
regardless of who get in there, we still should, exercise our right to vote. But regardless of who gets in there, God is still going to work that thing for His
Yes.
good. It may look bad, but He working that thing, because right now, with COVID, with everything that's going on, God is revealing the hearts. He's bringing things to the
Right.
surface that need to be brought to the light.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all working. It's all
Yeah,
working.
it's all working for the good. It really
Yeah.
is, and different kings and different, we're saying kings just because of the Bible times, but
Yeah.
rulers,
Right.
presidents, they have different roles. There's certain things that get accomplished, okay,
Yes.
under every ruling time, whether you think it's good, bad, or
Mm-hmm.
indifferent. God will do things at certain times,
Yeah.
and one group will find advancement under one king, and one may find oppression, and then another one
Mm-hmm.
comes in, and that group that was oppressed now finds liberty, and another group gets oppressed.
Yeah.
But
That's
God
true.
is never dethroned.
Oh,
Never.
God is never dethroned.
That's a
Okay,
word.
so you out here
yes, it
acting
is. Yes, it is.
acting like God is gonna leave the throne if
Just because of who
it,
in there.
just because
No.
who in there. Stop this foolishness.
Stop it.
It makes us like, and I think another one of my concerns is it kind of puts us in the position to feel like we have the ability to manipulate everything and be in control of everything.
Mm.
Because it's like, even with this coronavirus, and Lord, I'm gonna try and tie this in.
Yeah,
Acts,
because
and you ever heard of acts of God? Like when they talk
mm-hmm.
about
Yeah.
hurricanes,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
they call those acts of God for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, nobody could have initiated that unless it's some such thing as a man-made storm.
Mhm.
No one could have initiated that. So they call it an act of God when disasters happen. Coronavirus was more like, now, let me make this statement. Now, even if it was made in a
put your
lab,
put your disclaimers out there.
if
Go
it was
ahead.
made in a lab and tossed on the chicken in China,
Oh my God. Tossed on the chicken. Just sprinkled.
it's still a non-thing. You can't grab it, you can't push it, you can't. It's a thing out here that's not made of solid matter where we
Mhm.
cannot control the spread of it. You
Yeah.
Right,
cannot take it, grab it, put it in a bottle and put it
right,
back to
right.
the and put it back in the pits
Mhm.
of hell, even though we want to. So to even see people acting as if the coronavirus would be in the hands of any, I will eradicate it. Oh no,
No, you
when I
can't.
get in, I'm eradicated. Y'all shut up.
Shut
Y'all
up.
don't have, you know what I'm saying? We can control what we can control.
Yeah.
But just the pride of it all, that even other
Yeah, the
people,
masks them become political. The masks are now political.
Who knew? Who
Yeah.
knew?
who knew? Who knew?
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Everything is being politicized
Mm-hmm.
and is giving power in the wrong place. Power
Yes.
belongs to God. And I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
tell y'all, if y'all know like we know, uh, what it's doing is making it, putting it in the hands of man, where you're looking to man instead of getting on your knees and looking to God and saying, God,
Honey.
what must we do to be
Right.
saved and for
Yes.
coronavirus to go back to the pits? Tell us what to do.
Mm.
We
You know,
sorry.
we sorry, Lord. We
Whatever we
sorry.
did.
Whatever
If
we
we didn't do
did,
it
we
and they did
sorry.
it, they sorry, Lord. And we pray for them.
Mm-hmm. Child.
Apologizing for
And
everybody.
apologize for everybody.
Everybody's sorry, Jesus.
Right.
We're all sorry.
Mm.
So when we do that, and I'm talking to believers, when you do that, you are putting it as if God's hand, that you have control, and if
Mhm.
you vote the right person in, then all will be gravy. But how
Yeah.
many of us know we was okay? I don't want to go there. Yes, I am. We were still getting killed prior to Trump. It's just that we were in this pandemic long enough to sit still and to
Mm.
acknowledge the pain. I remember Philando Castile. That thing still
Mm.
hurts and haunts me. And and
Mhm.
and, and the one at 45 was not in office. And the only reason why I'm bringing that up is not to defend President Trump or down President Obama.
Mhm.
What is to say is these things, a lot of these things that are happening, there is a spirit behind the thing. And it don't
Absolutely.
matter the different people that we put into office. It does matter in a certain respect, but hatred, murder, discrimination, those are things that have been with us since the 1800s, since the inception of this country.
Mhm.
And it's going to take not only political positions to get it out, it's going to take the hand of God. But
It
anyway,
is.
you know,
But
It's
I
going to
do
be an
feel like
act
we
of God.
yeah. I
right.
do feel like we do need to hold our, those who are in positions of power accountable because let's go to the debate. I mean, a question was asked
Watch
you know a
it. Go ahead.
question was asked, do you denounce
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
do
Yeah.
you
And
denounce
easy layup and didn't do the layup.
yeah.
But see, again, pride, right?
Mm.
That being aside, though, the actual acts that are happening, that's all I'm saying. You
Yeah,
hold the people that needs to be accountable across the
because
board.
they
I don't care
can
who's in there.
they can pour fuel on the fire because you are in that level of position, and it ends up giving the wrong people a cosign
Mm-hmm.
to and I get the position that he's in because a lot of them voted for him. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you in a position to where you feel like you may not be able to openly say it's wrong, stop it, blah blah
Mm-hmm.
blah, yada yada yada, or whatever. But then it kind of leaves the rest of us vulnerable because all you need is one knucklehead
Mm-hmm.
to be like, oh, they're the president,
Yeah.
and
But
then
And
even with the go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sweet.
no, I was just going to say to that point, that's why is so important with this topic that we're having tonight. There needs, I think the topic is kingdom versus politics.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a distinction,
Yeah.
because really
Right.
in situations like this, like the situation that happened with the debate, since you brought that up, what should be coming from pulpits, hello, across America,
Come on.
black,
Well,
white, indifferent, is God is love. God does not
Yeah.
yeah.
endorse hatred. God
Yeah.
does not
Talk about it,
endorse,
sweet.
I'm going to talk about it. God does not endorse division.
I see
That's
what
what,
you're saying. If the church would at least come back and say, even when
right.
those in power may not, if we would even stand up and say that.
Right, but
Yeah.
the position that we're in is what we already said at the beginning of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
The lines are so bloody
They
and
are
bloody and murder,
murky.
murky and mulky
Yeah.
and dirty, that is, you can't even separate it,
Yeah.
because
Dirty,
politics
filthy.
is just nasty.
Mm.
Politics and the kingdom are looking like this as opposed to looking like that.
Mhm.
Mm.
It's like, putting sand in a bottle, two different colors. Who picking
Mm-hmm.
out all them little granules of blue from white, or red
Right.
from
Mm-hmm.
blue?
Right.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so
And we gonna get ourselves in something that only God gonna be able to get us out if we don't stop this
it's gonna
mess.
take the act of God.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Child. We need him.
So I
Okay.
think that's the issue right now. How
That's good.
it's so blurred. The lines are so blurred.
They
How do
are.
we unblur those lines? And I know
Right.
we're saying it jokingly, like the act of God, but like real talk, it's really gonna take an act of God, because
Yeah.
it's gotta be God to change the heart of the leaders that
It
you're talking about,
does.
Holly.
Yeah.
It's got to be God to change the heart of those people who are in those positions of authorities, those pastors, black and white,
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
to tell their people, hey, everybody need to calm down. Let's not take it to the streets.
Yes.
Right.
And until the leadership does that, we're still going to continue to have the division, because
Mm.
if the church were really taking its rightful place, we're supposed to be the governing authority in the earth.
Yes.
We should not be going to the government for welfare assistance. We should not be going to the government for our needs to be met.
Mm.
Watch it,
We
The
have
sweet.
church used to do
every,
that.
Watch it, sweet. Watch it, y'all. Y'all better
okay.
stop now. Go on. Keep
There
going.
used to be a storehouse so that there would be meat
Meat
in
is,
my house. What happened to the storehouse? Is it
Keep
in the
going. Keep going.
buildings? Is it in Bentleys and suits and
Not no
or the
more,
people get
because Jesus said, "I'm
well?
shutting you down."
look, somebody posted a question on Facebook, and they were talking about, with everybody's churches now, a lot of people still have not went back into the physical building. And
Mhm.
so when they were basically saying there are a lot of empty churches, and in Charlotte, and probably throughout the nation, but Charlotte has a very big population of homeless neighbors, where just people that are just homeless for whatever reason, and the season is already shifting, the weather's changing.
Yeah.
And so someone said, hey, we have these empty buildings because people aren't using them. Is there some type of connection that we could make with the ministries to house the homeless? And I was
That's
like,
cool.
thinking to myself, yo,
That
that'd be like
sounds awesome.
that would be like a really good
I'm telling you.
idea.
Yeah.
Like, let's not let these buildings go to waste just because we're not meeting
Yeah.
on a Sunday morning or a Wednesday
Yeah.
night or whatever the case may be. Now, I don't know all the logistics of what that would look like, and liability and insurance or whatever the case may be. But the point I'm making goes back to what I was stating before. If the church were in its rightful place and taking its rightful place and leading and governing, we wouldn't even have to be relying on
It
the
is so
government in
true.
the way
To
that
the
we do so
level way that,
strongly.
yes. So true.
And I agree with the sentiment that you said. It was so important. If we were using our voice, it's like the voice of the church has become nothing but an echo of whatever political party
It's
your
the
church is in.
truth.
Like all
Right.
you sound like your
Mm,
the DNC or the RNC. Like you
yeah.
sound like that. Instead of you voicing God is love, instead of us being out here speaking, no, this is what God say about this, right?
Right.
Yes.
No, we see what y'all doing and that ain't right. This
Mm-hmm.
is what this nation needs, and this is what God is, and this is how we're going to have peace. Preachers and teachers and other Christians are just sounding like the sounding board, as if the RNC or the DNC have the code, the cheat code on how
Come
to make this nation
on.
what it needs to be. No, it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we're in the state that we're in. Government
Mm.
has its role, earthly government has its role, but it cannot
Absolutely.
take the place of the government, the governance of the kingdom of God.
Come on.
Yes,
Come on.
And I know
absolutely.
this is a strong statement. This coming out a little more spiritual than I thought it would, but it is what it is, because
Yeah.
that's what we're meeting up against. Y'all think about when
Mm-hmm.
John the Baptist got locked up and got killed. He got executed in
Hmm.
prison because he told a government authority, "You're nasty. You ain't supposed to be sleeping with your,
Oh.
was it his wife's daughter, his
Mm.
Mm.
stepdaughter, something
You
like that, right?
pedophile.
Right.
Ooh.
Oh,
No.
nasty."
Yeah.
He was like, "That's gross. And you ain't supposed to be doing that." They locked him up and beheaded him because he
Mm.
spoke against a government person, a government
Yeah.
official. See,
So
but uh
folks too are
Jesus
scared to
said
get
that,
canceled.
but Jesus said, right, people, honey,
Mm.
people scared to get blocked on Facebook. You talk about saying
Honey,
something,
She
saying
they
said
was
folks get
did it back then, and you scared.
right. Come on,
Man,
Holly, expose us,
come on.
church folk.
cancel culture got you
Cancel
scared.
culture
I'm
got you
telling
scared and
you.
shook. Anyway, but
Well,
no,
no,
go.
go ahead.
I
Go
just
ahead. Finish your
I just
thought.
wanted to finish the point of with John the Baptist, but Jesus said there was no other greater prophet than John the Baptist.
Mm.
So even though the government had him like he was wrong, he shouldn't have said, he shouldn't have did, and they killed him, Jesus said he was in line with exactly what he needed to be doing.
Mm.
Anyway,
Mm.
go
Very
ahead,
good.
sweet.
Child, I
Mm.
forgot what I was getting ready to say, but dang,
But I
that's
think
good.
that it's a testament to the hardening of men's hearts, and I think that that's why we have gotten to this place to where we allow political parties to speak for us, because I mean that compassion and that true love for one another, does it really exist?
Wax
When you think
cold.
it has waxed cold, when you think about and a big and I think sweet, because I was helping out at her church on Sunday, the guy who preached, he said something that was so profound when he was talking about the reason why there's so much division is, he was like, do you have any friends that don't look like you? Because
Mm-hmm.
we're all coming from our own perspectives, our
Hmm.
own ideas, our own ideologies, and because we don't have anybody in our circle that looks like someone else, that may think something completely different from us, it's hard for us to see someone else's viewpoint other than our own, because we
Yeah.
haven't reached on the other side to actually see, okay, why do you feel that way? Why do you vote that way? What's important to you? What are the needs of your community? It's all about me, myself, and mine,
And I.
you know?
It's a trick of the enemy, y'all.
Yeah,
Holly, it has become so divisive. It is like, don't speak to them. If they vote for this, they don't care about you. If they
honey.
vote for this, they don't, what you talking to them for? And these people, anyway, y'all know how I feel about these little self-proclaimed bearers of righteousness that sit around telling
Hmm.
other folk whom they ought to speak to, what's righteous and what's not,
Yeah.
when they don't even stand for the true righteousness that comes from God. But anyway,
Hmm.
and even those who claim to have that, even my stance as a believer is not for me to be God in your life. That ain't
That's
my
right.
role.
Yeah.
It's to show forth the love of God.
Mm-hmm.
It's to speak what he tells me to speak, but it is not to have you on my shoulder to tell you move here, now do this, now do that, now do that.
Right,
Hmm.
And that
right.
is the posture that people have taken,
Yeah.
that people
Yeah.
that we have taken, and that divisiveness where it's like, I don't want to talk to you if you don't believe like I
Hmm.
believe. That is a trick of the enemy, because a lot
Yeah.
of times, because we want to dehumanize, see, and
Hmm.
that's how all of it works. That's the root of racism and
Yeah.
all the other isms, sexism, classism. You dehumanize one group and say
Mm-hmm.
your
Hmm.
value is not as value of mine because of
Mm-hmm.
your opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how you feel. I don't care what you really think. I want to label you and put you in a box over here so I don't have to deal
Mm-hmm.
with you.
Yes, absolutely.
Right, right.
Yeah,
And when
It's
we're
so true.
divided and we don't deal with each other, that's how the enemy can conquer.
Right.
absolutely.
It's a
And
divide and conquer. Go
And you
ahead.
and
see it.
then you and then too, April and Holly, like when you start looking at again the church, because we're talking about kingdom versus
Yes.
politics,
Hmm.
when the church sounds so much like the politics, you can't
Yes.
even make that distinction.
Right.
Mm-mm.
So then
Yeah.
that's another level of division. We got, like you said, we got the classism, we got sexism, we got racism, and then we have political division,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
because the church is
Add another
still not,
ism. I don't know what you call it, but
another ism.
Mm.
The church isn't taking its stance to say no, but this is where the church stands. And a lot of that has to do with the
Yes.
fact that we're divided on how we
Come
stand.
on.
Because
Yes,
you can ask
exactly.
any Christian about certain things, hot topic things, and you may
Hmm.
get, you could talk about homosexuality, you could start talking about abortion, you could
Yep.
talk about women's rights, you could talk about feminism, whatever. Amongst the three of us, and we're all believers, and you may possibly get different opinions.
mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So if we're not united and we're not confirmed on what we believe as an organism, as an
Yeah.
organization,
Yeah.
and then you muddy that with politics, OMG.
And you ain't gonna
Right.
be able to communicate a clear, concise
Right.
perspective on on what the church really views if everybody is every which
It's all
way.
over the place. So
Yeah.
you got some people, you got some believers that says God is about justice and he
Hmm.
stands for justice. And so we should take it to the streets and protest and exercise our First Amendment right. And then you have some believers who are like, these protests this is socialism, this is Marxism, this is not what the Bible says, this is not what the Lord supports. They're two totally polar opposites
Yeah.
coming from believers.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So we
Yes.
all believe that Jesus is Lord and Savior and all that good stuff, but we are on two sides of the street when
Mm.
it comes to some on a social justice issue
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Mm-mm.
or a
Because
homosexuality issue
it's
or an
based
abortion
off of,
issue.
yeah, based off of our experience versus the word should be our ruler. It's the
Right,
measuring stick.
That
But
right.
our
part right
experiences
there.
have become that. Yeah.
That's good. That's
Yeah,
so
our
good.
experiences and our opinions, because
Mm-hmm.
that's where I was getting ready to go. That was really good what Sweet said. And where I was going to go is both of those things where you talk about let's take it to the streets and the Marxism and the what they did was took something that was absolutely true. God is a God of justice, but but he never told us how that we had to how to enact that justice that he's for.
Mm-hmm.
You,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying? So it's
Right.
Yeah.
some things that we ascribe evil or not evil. God never ascribed that type of title to it. It's not
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
evil to protest peacefully, and it ain't don't make you a saint to go out and protest peacefully. You don't get
Right.
Mm-hmm.
no extra jewel in your crown in heaven. If you do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's the spirit of behind what you do. And if it in socialism and Marxism are all categories of like a social order, and you can kind of go into different things with that, but that's going beyond the scriptures. If we would
Yeah.
just stay
In the book.
Bible, just stay in the
Stay in
book.
the book.
Like if you're going to protest, but if you bash somebody's head in, thou should not kill.
Mhm.
If you're gonna protest. But if you are looting, thou shalt not steal. God says that,
Mhm.
right? You know what I'm saying? If you're going to say, you want to have a group where a social commune where everybody has everything in common, and that looks like socialism. Well, the part of socialism where God is against, you speak against that part, but you don't take the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
drive it
Mhm.
somewhere. We don't know
Right,
how to
because
be
the Bible,
balanced.
right, because when
Yeah.
you're talking about socialism, the Bible does talk about taking care of the widows. It
Mhm.
does talk about, it says
Mm-hmm.
the poor you're going to have with you always. Somebody
Yeah.
got to take care of the poor.
It's the
Yep.
truth.
And so it's like what you said, it's like, how do we apply the word to all of this stuff? But when you're not applying the word, then it becomes this very convoluted, opinionated
Yeah.
place and positioning.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
the flip side to that is you misconstrue the word in such a way to align with your thought process.
Oh
Right. Right.
yeah.
That
And
That's
adding,
mhm.
that's dangerous. Just that's equally as dangerous.
that adding to and
Yes.
taking away.